She thought buying those clothes would make her family shine this Christmas. Instead, they sat around the table on Christmas Day wearing designer outfits, drinking plain Garri with no sugar. And what happened next in January? It destroyed her completely. This is the story of how one woman's pride cost her family everything. When December arrived, something possessed Mrs. Rosalind Chambers. Not a gentle spirit, not a holy one, but the spirit of I must outshine my enemies or die trying. Her eyes would glow every morning as she stood before her cracked mirror, adjusting her head wrap like she was preparing for battle. And every single morning she'd whisper the same prayer, "This Christmas they will see that I still reign." Her husband, Emmanuel, a gentle soul with the patience of Job, would tie his worn shoes in silence. He'd learned long ago that December transformed his wife into someone unrecognizable. Normally, Rosalind was loud but reasonable. But the moment Christmas music started playing and that harmattan wind began to blow, her brain would shift into one gear: slay or be slayed. The entire neighborhood knew her madness. Even the stray dogs would cross to the other side of the street when they saw her coming, because she once told a goat blocking her path, "Move aside, you fashion disaster." Rosalind wasn't just obsessed with clothes, she was possessed by them. In her mind, Christmas wasn't about family or gratitude or rest. Christmas was a competition, a battlefield where you wore your wealth on your body and made your neighbors question their entire existence with one perfect outfit. Meanwhile, Emmanuel had only one concern: survival. Money was tighter than a drum. He worked at a small printing press where his boss promised salaries on the 25th but somehow always paid on the 31st with the excuse, "You know how things are now." The rent was breathing down their necks. School fees were warming up in the corner. Food prices were jumping higher than a kangaroo on energy drinks. And January, that demon of a month that pretended to have 31 days but somehow stretched into 90 days of pure suffering. One evening, as they ate plain rice, no chicken, no fish, no hope, Emmanuel cleared his throat carefully. "Rosalind, this Christmas we need to be wise. The children's clothes from last year still fit. Your dress is still beautiful. My shirt is still good. Let's just manage what we have." Rosalind dropped her spoon like he'd just announced her funeral. Her eyes widened. Her mouth fell open like a broken gate. "Manage?" Emmanuel nodded slowly, knowing he'd stepped on a landmine. "Yes, manage." Rosalind clutched her chest dramatically. "Emmanuel, are you trying to murder my reputation? You want the neighbors gossiping about how I'm suffering? You want Mrs. Adelaide next door saying my husband can't provide? Christmas comes once a year. Why should my enemies see me repeating outfits like a woman without options?" Emmanuel sighed, the kind of sigh that carries the weight of 10 generations. "Please, let's be smart. Money is scarce. You know January will be brutal. Let's not create problems for ourselves." Rosalind smiled, but it wasn't a real smile. It was the kind of smile a cobra gives before it strikes. Sweet, deadly, suspicious. "No problem, my dear husband. We will manage." She said it so calmly that Emmanuel almost believed her. But in Rosalind's heart, a war cry was screaming, over my lifeless, well-dressed body. Because Rosalind lived by one sacred rule. Even if I have no food, I must have clothes. The clothes will comfort me when hunger comes. And that night, the madness truly began. She started scrolling through online boutiques like a woman under a spell. Lace fabrics that cost more than 3 months' rent, Ankara styles requiring 60 yards of material, children's designer shoes that sparkled like disco balls under stage lights. And as she scrolled deeper into the night, she whispered to herself, my family will shine like the Star of Bethlehem. We will not enter that church looking like refugees from a second-hand clothing market. She even started measuring her children secretly at night while they slept so Emmanuel wouldn't catch her plotting. Her daughter woke up once, terrified. Mama, why are you wrapping measuring tape around my waist at 2 a.m.? Rosalind whispered urgently. Shh, I'm measuring your destiny. Go back to sleep. Then came the serpent. His name was Mr. Solomon, the neighborhood credit seller, a man famous for 3 things: his smooth tongue, his deadly calculator, and his perfect memory for debts. He could forget his own mother's birthday, but your debt? Never. One hot afternoon, Mr. Solomon passed by their compound carrying bags stuffed with beautiful clothes, wigs, shoes, jewelry, everything a woman could desire. Rosalind's eyes locked onto him like a missile targeting its victim. He smelled like temptation wrapped in a sales pitch. Mrs. Rosalind, come see what I brought. Premium Christmas collections. Take now, pay after New Year. Small installments allowed, very easy. Rosalind's entire body trembled like someone receiving a prophecy. He continued, his voice dripping with honey. Your family will glow. People will bow. Everyone will envy. And you can pay later. No stress. Rosalind's soul left her body, circled the compound twice, and returned with bad advice. She waved her hand. Let me see what you have. And that's how she walked into the trap. She didn't buy 1 outfit. She didn't buy 2. She bought matching family Christmas outfits. 3 complete sets for each child. A wig that looked like imported mermaid hair, glittering shoes, designer sunglasses for the photos, accessories, everything. The total? More than Emmanuel's entire month's salary. But Rosalind? She was floating in the clouds of delusion. She hugged those bags like they were her newborn children and whispered, this December will remember my name. She smuggled everything into the house like a criminal trafficking contraband, hid them in storage bags under the bed, and walked around humming gospel songs with a suspicious smile. The children asked, Mama, why are you smiling like someone who just won the lottery? She replied mysteriously, mind your studies. You'll soon witness greatness. December 24th arrived like a villain in a movie dramatic and ready to destroy lives. Before the sun even fully rose, Rosalind had already swept the compound 6 times, bathed the children twice, ironed imaginary wrinkles, and checked the hidden bags under her bed at least 10 times to make sure the clothes hadn't vanished. She couldn't sit still. Excitement was bouncing inside her like a hyperactive toddler on sugar. She kept smiling at Emmanuel with a look that made him deeply uncomfortable. Around 8 a.m., she decided the moment had come. She locked the bedroom door, dragged out the massive storage bag, opened it like she was unveiling a priceless treasure, and spread the clothes across the bed with tears of joy in her eyes. She called the children with the voice of a prophet announcing miracles. Junior, Grace, Samuel, come witness your Christmas blessing. The children stampeded in like wild animals and exploded with joy when they saw the clothes. Mama, new clothes, new shoes, new sunglasses. They jumped on the bed, rolling in the expensive lace like puppies in fresh grass. Rosalind stood there like a proud general watching her army celebrate. Then Emmanuel walked in. He froze. His eyes scanned the room slowly, taking in the mountain of designer clothes, the price tags still attached, the shopping bags from expensive boutiques. Then he whispered, barely breathing, "Rosalind, where did all of this come from?" Rosalind didn't even hesitate. She threw her hands toward heaven and shouted with the energy of a televangelist, "My husband! A miracle happened!" Emmanuel's eyebrows crashed into each other. What? Miracle? Rosalind placed one hand on her chest dramatically, like an actress accepting an award. Someone blessed us this Christmas. God spoke to them. They said He told them to wipe away our tears of poverty. Emmanuel squinted suspiciously. Someone? Who? Rosalind's smile flickered for half a second. A friend. She wants to remain anonymous. She said God instructed her to bless our family. Emmanuel looked at the children, at the clothes, at the imported wig shining under the light bulb like a beacon of lies. Then back at Rosalind. Rosalind, tell me the truth. Did you buy these clothes on credit? Rosalind placed a finger dramatically on her tongue like she was about to swear an oath, then changed her mind halfway. Borrow? Me? Never. My enemies will collapse this Christmas. We will look like royalty. Emmanuel sighed. Something felt wrong. Very wrong. But it was Christmas Eve. He was tired. So he decided to trust his wife. What else could he do? Meanwhile, Rosalind was already rehearsing her grand entrance like a celebrity preparing for the red carpet. She practiced poses in the mirror, slow motion walking. She even coached the children. When we enter church tomorrow, walk slowly. No running, no scratching. Smile. Make the angels jealous. The children nodded, like soldiers receiving battle orders. Later that evening, she stepped outside to get fresh air. But really, she was waiting for neighbors to notice and praise her upcoming glory. Mrs. Adelaide walked by and screamed when she saw the clothes hanging to air out. Jesus! Rosalind! These clothes will make people faint. Rosalind smiled like someone receiving worship. But while all this was happening, across town, Mr. Solomon, the credit seller, was sitting in his shop, pressing his calculator with the fury of an accountant who just discovered fraud. He counted on his fingers. 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks. He hissed so loudly that ancestors in graves turned over. I've changed my mind. Today I will collect my money by fire, by force. He gathered 2 muscular assistants and they rehearsed their entrance like a debt-collecting military operation. No mercy. She must pay today. By 6 p.m., Emmanuel returned home carrying his December paycheck in his pocket, smiling because he planned to buy chicken, cook stew, maybe even fry plantain. His children would enjoy Christmas properly. Rosalind welcomed him like an angel of joy, dancing and singing. But just as Emmanuel sat down to remove his shoes, they heard it. Boom, bang, bang, bang. The knock didn't sound like a normal knock. It sounded like police, like bailiffs, like the IRS combined with the anger of unpaid landlords. The kind of knock that makes your heart jump out of your chest and run away. Emmanuel looked at Rosalind slowly. Rosalind looked at Emmanuel slowly. The children dove behind furniture. Then a voice boomed from outside. "Mrs. Rosalind Chambers, we have come for our money." Another knock louder. Bang, bang, bang. "Rosalind, open this door before we break it down." And right there, on Christmas Eve, their world began to crumble. Emmanuel turned his head like a malfunctioning robot to face his wife. "Rosalind, what is happening?" Before she could manufacture a lie, the door burst open. Mr. Solomon marched in with two assistants who looked like they were carved from pure frustration. His face was squeezed tight like someone smelling rotten garbage. "Good evening. We are here for the money." Emmanuel blinked rapidly, confused. "Money for what?" Mr. Solomon pointed directly at Rosalind with the accuracy of a prosecutor in court. "For the Christmas clothes your wife bought on credit. Expensive ones, imported ones, matching family sets, leather shoes, lace, wig, jewelry, all of it. Pay now." Emmanuel stood completely still. He didn't blink. He didn't breathe. He didn't move. He simply replayed that sentence in his head like a broken record. "Christmas clothes your wife bought on credit." Slowly, painfully slowly, he turned to face Rosalind. She was already shrinking like a deflating balloon, her head buried in her chest, unable to look up. "Rosalind, tell me this man is lying." Rosalind opened her mouth, but no words came out. Only hot, guilty air escaped. Mr. Solomon clapped his hands sharply. "My brother, she's not mute. The total is 78,450 naira. Bring it now." Emmanuel felt his soul leave his body, float around the room, checking the situation, then return with crushing disappointment. 78,000? One of the debt collectors added helpfully, and 450 naira, as if those extra coins mattered. Rosalind finally found her voice, shaking. "Emmanuel, my husband, please let me explain." "Explain what?" Emmanuel exploded. Mr. Solomon, completely uninterested in family drama, pointed at the storage bag under the bed. "If you don't pay now, we're taking everything back. All the clothes, including the children's socks." The children screamed. "No, not our Christmas clothes." Rosalind grabbed the bag with both hands, hugging it like her life. "Please, don't touch them. They're brand new. We must shine tomorrow." By now, neighbors were gathering outside the door, because where there's noise, there's free entertainment. Mrs. Adelaide stood in the doorway with her arms folded. "Ah, today we will see something." Emmanuel turned to Rosalind slowly, trembling with rage. "So you went behind my back, bought clothes on credit, And lied that it was a miracle? Rosalind stammered. My husband, I just wanted us to shine a little. People are watching us. Emmanuel threw his hands in the air. Let them watch your foolishness. Mrs. Adelaide shouted from the doorway. Yes, sir, we are definitely watching. Emmanuel paced the room like a caged lion, rubbing his head, sweating, thinking about rent, school fees, and the 90-day January that was about to devour them alive. Mr. Solomon tapped his foot impatiently. Mr. Man, where is the money? Emmanuel froze. His December paycheck, his only hope for Christmas, his survival fund for January. Slowly, painfully, he walked to where he'd hidden the envelope. His hands shook as he opened it. Rosalind wailed, falling to her knees, grabbing his legs, his trousers, anything she could hold. Emmanuel, please, don't finish the money. Please, I'm sorry, I'm so sorry. But she was the one who opened the door to this nightmare. Emmanuel handed every single naira to Mr. Solomon, who counted it faster than a bank machine. When he finished, he nodded with satisfaction. Balance correct. Merry Christmas. He turned and walked out like an angel of financial destruction. The room was silent. Emmanuel stood in the middle, looking completely empty. Rosalind knelt on the floor, crying like someone peeling onions directly into her soul. The children stared at the ceiling, wondering why their lives felt like a tragic movie. Finally, Emmanuel spoke, his voice hollow. Wonderful. Tomorrow we'll wear designer clothes, but no rice, no chicken, no drinks, nothing. Rosalind sobbed. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Emmanuel shook his head slowly. Save it. It's too late now. The neighbors dispersed to spread the gossip, while the family went to bed with empty stomachs and broken hearts. Christmas morning arrived with cruel brightness. Birds sang, children laughed outside, church bells rang joyfully. But inside the Chambers home, the atmosphere was darker than a cave during a power outage. Hunger sat in one chair, shame sat in another, and regret lay comfortably on the floor, fanning itself. Still, the clothes had to be worn, because money had already died for them. By 7 a.m., Rosalind pulled out the matching outfits with the energy of someone carrying an unbearable burden. She ironed them heavily, pressing the fabric as if she was trying to iron out her mistakes, her pride, her stupidity. The children were excited, jumping around, completely unaware they were dressing up for a hunger parade disguised as celebration. Junior shouted, "Mama, look! I look like a prince!" Grace twirled in her lace dress. "Mrs. Adelaide will die when she sees me." Rosalind forced a smile, but inside, her stomach was playing funeral drums. Emmanuel dressed in complete silence, buttoning his shirt slowly like a man attending court for a crime he didn't commit. When he looked at himself in the mirror, he whispered, "Designer clothes, empty pockets, Merry Christmas." Rosalind tried to apply makeup, but her face was swollen from crying all night. Still, she dusted powder carelessly and told herself, "Even if I'm dying inside, I must look alive outside." By 8:30 a.m., they stepped out as a family unit. Matching clothes, shining shoes, coordinated colors. and hungry faces disguised with desperate smiles. The moment they stepped outside, Mrs. Adelaide screamed, "Look at this elegance! You people are matching goals." Another neighbor added, "Money is speaking, God is good." Emmanuel nearly collapsed right there. Rosalind laughed awkwardly. "Yes, we thank God, we thank God." But in her mind, she was screaming, "God, please hide me under your wings until this day ends." They walked to church like slow-moving royalty, holding their stomachs so hunger wouldn't embarrass them publicly. At the church entrance, an usher screamed, "Wow, family goals." Another whispered to her friend, "Money is living in that house." Only God, Emmanuel, and Rosalind knew the truth. There was not one grain of rice waiting for them at home. As they sat in church, their stomachs started singing the national anthem of hunger. Grace whispered, "Daddy, what are we eating after church?" Emmanuel stared straight ahead, blinking slowly like a robot shutting down. "Ask your mother," Junior asked. "Mama, what will we eat?" Rosalind answered without looking at him. "Holy Communion. Take 2 pieces." The pastor was preaching about joy, but Emmanuel couldn't focus. Every time the pastor shouted, "Hallelujah!" Emmanuel heard the echo of his lost paycheck. Rosalind couldn't focus either. Every time the pastor said, "Rejoice," she remembered the money she'd wasted and wanted to remove her wig and weep openly. After service, as families rushed to their cars, chattering about the jollof rice, fried chicken, and cold drinks waiting at home, the Chambers family walked slowly, like mourners leaving a funeral. When they finally reached home, Emmanuel entered the kitchen. He stood there for a long moment. Then he emerged, carrying a bowl of plain Garri and water. He placed it on the table and announced with dead calm, "Merry Christmas, family." The children stared, confused. "But Daddy, where's the rice? Where's the chicken?" Emmanuel looked at them calmly. "Your mother ate the rice money." "What rice? Which rice? Which rice?" Emmanuel turned to her slowly. "You used the rice money to buy that wig you're wearing, correct?" The children gasped in horror. Rosalind covered her face with both hands, sobbing. They sat around the table, all of them wearing expensive lace, glittering shoes, matching designer outfits, and drinking plain Garri with no sugar. Neighbors walked past their window carrying plates of fried chicken and meat pies, laughing loudly, while the Chambers family swallowed silence and shame. Even the Garri looked embarrassed to be there. The youngest child, Samuel, tasted the Garri and whispered innocently, "Mama, this Garri tastes poor." Emmanuel stood up and walked out before he said something that would send him to prison. Rosalind wanted to cry, but she drank her Garri instead, because tears couldn't fill the stomach. The entire compound talked about their outfits for exactly 3 minutes. Nobody talked about their hunger, because nobody KNW what went on behind those designer clothes. And that evening, when Rosalind removed her expensive outfit and folded it carefully, she realized something devastating. "I suffered all this damage for clothes people admired for 2 minutes." Meanwhile, January was already outside the door, sharpening its cutlass. Because after Christmas, Garri comes 90 days of January destruction, and the Chambers family was about to receive the full contract. Exactly 1 week after Christmas, January arrived like a ruthless landlord, loud, unapologetic, and ready to collect everything. While other families were still posting Christmas throwback photos with leftover stew, the Chambers family was doing prayer and fasting. Not voluntary fasting, forced fasting, because there was simply no food. School resumed on January 9th, but the school fees were still sitting in the principal's office, waiting like a patient predator. Emmanuel's transport money finished by January 5th. Rosalind stopped attending neighborhood meetings because she knew everyone had seen her family drinking Garri on Christmas. Every morning, she'd wake up and pray desperately. God, carry me through this month. January is doing too much. She walked carefully around the house as if hunger itself was chasing her with a stick. One morning, Emmanuel was ironing his shirt when the iron suddenly went cold. The electricity unit had finished. Emmanuel looked at the iron, then at the ceiling, then back at the iron. He shook his head and whispered, "So even you want to disgrace me now?" They started cutting soap into 2 pieces so it would last longer. The children carried leftover crackers to school for lunch. Emmanuel walked to work on some days because there was no transport fare. Rosalind counted beans like she was doing lottery predictions, trying to make them stretch impossibly far. Everything was suffocating. On January 12th, the school sent a letter home like a threatening spirit. If school fees are not paid by January 20th, students will sit outside the classroom and watch lessons through the window. Rosalind nearly fainted when she read it. She looked at Emmanuel with terror in her eyes. "My husband, what do we do?" Emmanuel looked at her slowly, his voice barely above a whisper. "Rosalind, if you hadn't bought those clothes on credit, we wouldn't be here." She broke down completely, crying. The shame of December was following her like a shadow with impossibly long legs. A few days later, the landlord knocked cheerfully. "Good afternoon. Just a friendly reminder that rent will be due at the end of the month." Rosalind screamed internally. Emmanuel held his head in his hands. January continued stretching like an evil rubber band, refusing to end. The days felt eternal, like 90 days squeezed cruelly into 31. Their neighbors were still cooking jollof rice, frying fish, eating fruits, laughing loudly. Meanwhile, the Chambers family was practicing the ministry of silence and suffering. One evening, as they all sat quietly on the floor, little Samuel asked something innocent but devastating. "Mama, will we drink Garri again next Christmas?" Rosalind swallowed shame with her saliva. "No, baby, next Christmas we'll eat rice and chicken." Junior added quietly, "Mama, next Christmas please. No new clothes. Let's use our old clothes and eat instead." That one destroyed her. Rosalind burst into hot, uncontrollable tears, crying from shame, regret, and hunger all mixed together. She crawled to Emmanuel's feet, knelt down, grabbed his legs, and apologized through sobs. "My husband, please forgive me. I let Christmas pressure poison my mind. I let pride control me. I made us suffer. I didn't listen. I wanted people to admire me. But look at us now. Nobody even remembers those clothes after Christmas. All this suffering was for nothing." Emmanuel sighed deeply. He lifted her up gently and spoke with exhausted wisdom. "Rosalind, I love you, but you need to understand, a family eats before it shines. If you hadn't experienced this horror firsthand, maybe you still wouldn't understand contentment. Clothes cannot replace food. Life isn't a fashion competition. We manage what we have until God blesses us more." She nodded, still crying. "I've learned my lesson, and the lesson beat me properly." In February, when Emmanuel's paycheck finally arrived and they could afford food again, Rosalind folded those Christmas clothes and stored them away. She purposely avoided looking at them, because every time she opened that storage bag, she saw hunger, debt, shame, mistake. From that day forward, whenever a friend said, "Let's buy new outfits for Christmas," Rosalind would reply, "My dear, it's better to eat rice with peace than to shine in clothes while suffering inside." Her new motto became, "Clothes don't make Christmas. Food and family do." When the next Christmas came, she didn't buy anything new. She ironed last year's clothes, proudly cooked jollof rice with chicken, fried plantain, bought drinks for the children, and when Mrs. Adelaide shouted, "Rosalind, where are the new clothes this year?" she laughed peacefully. "They're in storage. This year, we're shining in our stomachs, not in the streets." That year, the Chambers family had a peaceful, joyful, and shame-free Christmas, because Rosalind had finally learned the lesson December taught her. It's better to eat well and rest than to shine in suffering for people who will forget your outfit in 24 hours. This story destroys me every time, because how many of us have let pride cost us our peace? Drop a comment and tell me, what hit you hardest about this story? Have you ever sacrificed something important just to impress people who don't even care? Share this video with someone who needs to hear it. Hit that like button if this story taught you something real. And subscribe, because I bring you stories that don't just entertain, they transform. Until the next